I'm back, and today I'm going to be talking about the final installment in the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Another great name. J.K. Rowling never ceases to amaze me with these brilliant titles, and also they just sound cool. Like, yeah, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Like, that sounds like a book I want to read, I did when I was a kid. And it still does to this day as an adult. Sorry, I gotta drink the tea or else I won't be able to do this video. Yeah, so Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, this is when Harry Potter goes into full-on epic mode, right? Becomes, it's very much like an epic, right? It's apocalyptic, it's very eschatological, right? In the sense of eschatology, for those who don't know, is the study of the end times, the eschaton. And it's very much like that because it, obviously, Harry and his final showdown with Voldemort is very much like, Christ and his final showdown with the Antichrist. And you're basically, you're either on the side of Christ or the Antichrist. There's not really much in between, right? And it also, interestingly enough, there's lots of different themes of St. Augustine, like City of God, right? Where St. Augustine talks about mankind being divided essentially into the city of God and the city of man. And you belong to either or, and there's really nowhere else in between. And I think that's really the message of Harry Potter. In the world itself, you could see how you were either in Dumbledore's army or you were in Voldemort's army, the city of God or the city of man, right? And also that can kind of sometimes be contrasted in the sort of entities or power blocks, I guess you could say, of Hogwarts versus the Ministry. They butt heads a lot and have conflicting interests. But obviously that's not entirely the case because the Ministry is not beyond redemption. There's a lot of good people that work there, like Mr. Weasley, Cedric Diggory's dad, Amos Diggory, Kingsley Shacklebolt, who's awesome, by the way. So right off the get-go, there's really a sense of urgency, intensity, intimacy, right? Because, like I said, this is when Harry Potter goes full-on apocalyptic, right? Harry has to go into exile, and all he has with him is, the only people who has with him is Hermione and Ron, his two best friends, and actually for a time, Ron leaves them, because of the way the Horcrux divides them, very similar to how the devil, that's how he wants, human interactions and human acquaintances and friendships to. I mean, he doesn't want human friendship, right? Because the devil wants us divided. We need to be united. Woo! And so now in this one, is really rough. So there's no more Dumbledore. There's no Hogwarts. I remember reading it, just waiting for him to go to Hogwarts, and he never gets to go. I was just devastated by that. But obviously he makes his triumphant return and saves the day, and we're gonna get into that later. And really, the experiences that Harry has in this story of being in exile, there's lots of references actually to like the surveillance state, like Harry, like he can't even really be out in public, right? He is undesirable number one, and there's posters plastered everywhere throughout the wizarding world, right? And interestingly enough, when they infiltrate the Ministry to get the locket, which is one of the Horcruxes on his former professor, she was wearing it during the obviously BS trial of because they're doing they're trying to do the ethnic cleansing, right? The Ministry, which has been completely bulldozed by the occult Death Eaters and elites in the background, and it was literally taken over in like a day. Like, it literally was pretty much overnight. It's insane. I mean, the ministry themselves were obviously incompetent, and a lot of them were in on it too. So, yeah. Basically, we see the the full. We see the fruits of Voldemort's regime, right? They want to eliminate all Muggles from Wizarding Society, right? And not only that, Voldemort wants to enslave the entire world, right? Interesting enough, both wizard and Muggle, or at least the wizards that don't want to go along with his plan, except obviously you know that even the people that he says he's not going to enslave, like the people close to him, like the Death Eaters and all that, you really don't think that he's just going to stab them in the back and enslave them too. Of course he is, because he's Voldemort. He can't love, right? And I think this kind of this experience he has in this one, and I mean obviously it's in every single one, and you gradually build up to it. But when Harry has to leave the burrow, right? He has to leave the wedding. Ron's older brother was getting married, and it's really great. But the fact that he has to leave all that behind, and he just has the realization that he can't do that anymore. Like there really is, sadly, no time for, just those kind of good things in life. And I mean, obviously those things are good, but I think it was obviously necessary that Harry was pulled away from that, not only because it put everyone else in danger, but also this is very archetypal through the stories of old, right? It's very much like Moses. I mean, and this is when Harry just goes full on Moses mode. He's in exile. He's away from his true people, and he learns the ways of the forest. I thought that was really interesting. Learns to survive in the wilderness. It's a really, really great addition to the entire Harry Potter canon. Now, this loss of your people, your home, being in exile, and just kind of having to deal with the world now, the way it is, with this whole anxiety over the Coomer Goblin elite, the surveillance state, and all that. You're just like, wow, like, is this just real life? And I really, actually, in the movie, I really like the scenes in London, when he goes from the magical world to, I mean, a lot of people complain that it doesn't feel like Harry Potter, but I mean, I actually like it because it just shows just how much the world has changed, and I mean, especially people my age, we can clearly see that, right? From times when we were little kids to now, it's pretty much like the best time to be a kid and then like the worst time to be an adult. It's crazy. But Harry and his character, his journey shows us that we can overcome that. Praise be Jesus Christ. And all right, so he has to go into exile. And now, before that happened, he actually learns a lot about Dumbledore's past. He meets Bathilda Bagshot at the wedding. She wrote a biography, I believe, of Dumbledore. And she knew him when he was, because they're from the same neighborhood, and as is Harry, Godric's Hollow, which I think of importance, the fact that all these characters are from this one neighborhood, right? And it also kind of shows this, like the different kind of circles and milieus of the wizarding world, and like there's this, kind of like there's elites, there's the economic side, there's the academic side, right? Like she's a magical historian, and it just, I don't know, just details like this just make the world feel so real, And I mean, obviously, people complain that Harry Potter has bad world building. I mean, obviously, I think there's problems with it, but say whatever you want about it, it's memorable, right? Hogwarts is memorable. The Forbidden Forest is memorable. The Chamber of Secrets is memorable. The Quidditch pitch is memorable. Hogsmeade is memorable. The Ministry of Magic is memorable. The Burrow is memorable. Like we say, like I think that means something, right? And regardless, I still think the world building is good, but that's a topic for another video, right? And what's interesting is that Harry has like a crisis of faith, right? When he learns so many things about Dumbledore that that never would have occurred to him. You're like, oh wait, he has a brother? Well, he had a sister, and wait, he's might be the reason she's dead. What is this? I don't really know. It's very similar to Luke in Star Wars and his crisis of faith when he realized Darth Vader's his father. Oh wait, why didn't Obi-Wan tell me that? And all this stuff. So I think this is also very much like when we as Catholics learn about the history of the church, right? And we obviously we know all of the awesome things that the church has done, but then we also learn about a lot of the bad things that not the church has done, but church men have done, right? I think that's key distinction. And it's very frustrating at first because he has literally the fate of the world tasked to him. He has to hunt down the remaining Horcruxes, the occult magical objects that Voldemort, upon splitting his soul, has hidden a piece of his soul in each object, right? And he has no idea where any of them are because they literally could be anything. I mean, it could literally be like this other Brazil hat I have. It could literally be this cup. And actually, believe it or not, one of them is a cup. And the Horcruxes themselves, you see, they all have, to some degree or another, a connection to Voldemort, or at least the places that they're hidden definitely do. And I think it's interesting that Voldemort, because obviously he hates Voldemort hates Dumbledore, right? And obviously I've told you guys very much how Dumbledore is very much like a God figure, like God the Father, in the Christian sense, the way he looks, the way he operates in the story. And Voldemort hates that, right? And I mean, that's the evil people in the world. They hate God, and obviously he hates Hogwarts too, because he feels like it failed him and all that. But also it's because Hogwarts is a sacred, wholesome institution of real education, right? And obviously we can't have kids receiving a real education. That's why when obviously, because Harry can't go to Hogwarts anymore because it has been totally infiltrated. They don't teach any of the same subjects anymore. It's literally run by Death Eaters, and Snape's the headmaster because we still think that he's bad. And I remember Neville said that it's not even the defense against the dark arts the class is literally now just the dark arts, right? And then they had to practice the Cruciatus Curse on first years, right? And you can just see how that's the state of the education now, generally speaking. I mean, when you think about it, I think they are really doing, in a sense, Cruciatus curses on children in public school, when you really think about it in that way. And so Voldemort has essentially defiled all of the sacred relics of the respective Hogwarts houses. Interesting enough, the only one that he has not done that to is the Sword of Gryffindor, showing how the Sword of Gryffindor, just has this, very, it's a spiritual, it has spiritual power, very much like how holy relics in the real world, right, in the Catholic Church function. They have real spiritual power. And so obviously you have the crown of Ravenclaw, Ravenclaw's lost diadem, the cup of Hufflepuff, and then Salazar Slytherin's locket, I think it was. So he's defiled all those. But interesting enough, he can't, I don't know how, he wasn't, maybe, did he try? I don't know. Either way, the Sword of Gryffindor is the one that is not, which I think, interestingly enough, shows that there is a sort of special charism that the House of Gryffindor has, right? It doesn't mean that they're any better, like they're not more of human beings than any of the other houses. That's obviously not what it is, but you can clearly see how, obviously in the real world, when you think about the three people groups that are the building blocks of Western civilization, right? The Romans, the Greeks, and the Jews. The Romans are obviously, they gave us our basis of law, governance, right? The Greeks gave us philosophy, science, education, right? Academia. And then the Jews obviously gave us the religion and the spiritual, component to our Western culture. Now, and obviously there was, certain beliefs, right, in the medieval world. And some people may still believe this. I still kind of do. Like, in a sense, the Romans, and I guess the people descended from the Romans today, the Romans very much have this charism of being the rulers, like the governors, the senators, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think Dante held that view, right? And then also, like the Greeks have the charism of the, Greek philosophy, right? Talk about trying to find the truth without the gospel. Like, I think the Greeks probably got as close as you can get, right? And then obviously the Jews have the special charism of having, God revealing himself to them, like they were the first people to, get revelation from God. In the fully conscious sense, because obviously everyone has received some revelation, I guess you could say. Well, maybe don't quote me on that because I don't want to sound like a heretic accidentally. Anyways, and now speaking of the sword plays a very important role in this story because they discover later on that because Harry killed the basilisk, right, when he slayed the serpent in the Chad mythical tale, Chamber of Secrets, the sword has the special power of being able to absorb that which it destroys, and it makes it stronger, right? So now, and we know that in the lore, the basilisk venom destroys Horcruxes, and because he slayed the serpent with the Sword of Gryffindor, they learn that that's what they can use to destroy Horcruxes, right? But, they get into a little bit of a hurdle because, before they have the wedding, the Minister of Magic, who has succeeded Fudge, right, because Fudge resigned in disgrace when it came out that, oh wait, Voldemort is back. And everyone, so he's gone. And maybe he became a Deathly. I actually don't know. Actually, let me know, guys, in the comments, because there's some of these lesser details in the books that sometimes I need to brush up on. Maybe he did. Actually, what is the fate of Cornelius Fudge? Let me know. The new Minister of Magic, Scrimgeour, Rufius Scrimgeour, whatever, Scrimgeour, the new Minister of Magic, who in a lot of ways is a big improvement upon Fudge, right? I don't think he was really that bad of a guy. However, he's just a little bit too concerned with, PR and looking good, sounding good, saying the right things. And he sacrifices that. He thinks that's more important than truth and, actually doing what's needed to be done, right? Because he visits Harry, Ron, and Hermione at the Burrow before the wedding and gives them Dumbledore's will. Now, in Dumbledore's will, he left each of the members of the trio special gifts, right? He gives Hermione the Tales of Beetle the Bard, which will be important because it has the symbol of the Deathly Hallows. Obviously, in a lot of ways, it's could be read as a trinitarian symbolism, but also he gives Ron his deluminator, right? His device that he could use to get the light, which I think I might have mentioned in Sorcerer's Stone with the deluminator. That kind of shows how Dumbledore is just kind of like a higher spiritual level than just like your average wizard, not just in terms of mere like physical power, but like he's like it's power level, but it's really spiritual and like virtue and whatnot, right? And Dumbledore, he can control the light. I think that's really indicative of his, like, he very much is like, he's very Christ-like, very priestly, like Saint Nicholas, Odin, Merlin. I mentioned all of these kind of, components that, like Dumbledore is like an amalgamation of multiple different characters and figures and archetypes and whatnot, which obviously allows Ron to find them again after he leaves because the Horcrux divided them. And so to Harry, he gives him the golden snitch. And in his will, gave him the Sword of Gryffindor. And of course, Harry's like, well, this belongs to me. Hermione's like, yeah, it belongs to Harry. And of course, we as the readers and the audience are like, yeah, hell yeah, it belongs to Harry. But because Scrimgeour is, like I said, he's not really that bad of a guy, he just doesn't have the spine to do what's necessary because he doesn't let Harry have the sword because he's like, well, just because the sword presented itself to you in a moment of need does not make it your property, and how he says that it's an important historical artifact, right, that belongs in a museum essentially, right? And I think this is very much how people in the modern day view the church, and more specifically, it can be how the traditional Latin Mass is unfortunately treated by the members of the church hierarchy, right? Where it's like they just kind of dismiss it. It can be the Latin Mass or the church in general. It's not a one-to-one, of course, with any of these things. It's about applicability. You know how like people just kind of view the church as a relic of the past, like, well, yeah, it might have had all this spiritual power like back then, but like now, like we know that that's not real. And of course, yeah, this dismissal of like, yeah, the sword, come on, dude, like you really think that you're gonna defeat Voldemort with the dang Sword of Gryffindor? Like, that's a pipe dream. But of course, we know that it's not a pipe dream and it's real. And the minister just dismisses all of this, right? And it's annoying, but he does let them know that the sword is missing. So there is still some hope, right? And eventually, he does find the sword through the mysterious Patronus that he sees that leads him to the lake in the forest, and the sword is underwater. I really think that, like symbolically, that just shows the stage that we're at in the story, where Harry has to plunge into freezing cold water to get the thing he needs, right? And obviously, there's themes of sacrifice, right? And with Harry and what he has to do later in the story. But I think it also applies to just the tasks and whatnot that he has to overcome, and just the virtue necessary to do it, right? And also, I think like the him having to plunge into the water, the ice cold water, to get the sword, that reminded me of, I believe it's like a Russian Orthodox Christian tradition, where like on Easter, someone puts a cross at the bottom of the frozen lake, because obviously in Russia it's cold as balls. And I think like someone has to go in the lake and get the cross. That kind of reminded me of that. Do I think that that's referencing that? Maybe. I don't know. Probably not. But either way, I think the connection is pretty cool and applicable. Yeah, like I said, the politics they're very engaging and surprisingly reflect the real world, right? And I think this is true of all of the Harry Potters, right? And obviously here, we could see how so sorry, Voldemort takes over the Ministry like that, and Scrimgeour is dead, and we get the new industry plant minister, who we saw from a few scenes ago was literally in like the deep state meeting with Voldemort. So then Voldemort just puts his like puppet there, right? I'm just like, oh man, this is just real. This is the real world. Well, I mean, not exactly, but you know what I mean. So we get the new minister who, when Harry, Ron, and Hermione are infiltrating the Ministry to get the locket, like I brought up earlier, he claims that he will tear down this temple of tolerance and restore it to its former glory. Temple, restore to former glory. I wonder what that sounds like. Take that as you will. Let me see. Yeah, no, and I mean, this story, it's just, it's very sad, of course. Like, people are just dying left and right. Mad-Eye Moody dies. Fred dies later in the story, right? Just when his brother, Percy, who had disowned the family in Order of the Phoenix because he didn't believe Harry because he was just working at the Ministry and wanted to, get his good boy points, because that's always kind of how he was. And then he just sunk to the levels of, yeah, I'm willing to I'm willing to throw my family and Harry under the bus to look good to the minister, right? I mean, maybe that, I'm not saying that anyone who works in these kind of political offices and whatnot are inherently, evil. I mean, a lot of people, they think they're doing good, right? But obviously you can see in Harry Potter that that was not the right decision for him to make. And when he comes back with his family to fight at the Battle of Hogwarts, he forgives Harry for all that he did to him, and he makes up, and he's back with the family. And it's like, yeah, it's just like in Order of the Phoenix when Harry and Sirius are fighting. It's like, yeah, we're gonna be the duo, just like how you were with my dad. And he's gone. And the same thing happens to Fred when they had just forgiven each other. It's so sad, Colin Creevy, hi Harry, is taking the pictures all the time, and Harry was like, okay, shut up, dude. He's dead. Lavender Brown dies. Oh, and Dobby, of course, and that's like one of the saddest moments ever. Man, it's just like there's so much to talk about. This is a dense story. A lot of characters and just a lot of everything, right? Now, let's see. What's really interesting, I think, is like throughout the story, Harry has to use all the things that he's learned in the previous stories, right? I mean, he has to, obviously use the spells. He has to really go through the tough times, right? And he also has to, he has to give his life, the whole story has been building up to this, right? But I'm actually going to save that for the next. Let me see. So Hermione, the gift that she had from Dumbledore, the book, The Tales of the Beetle the Bard, there was the symbol of the Deathly Hallows, the triangle with the circle and the line through it. There was a symbol written there. and they don't know what it is, but Harry saw that same symbol on the pendant of Luna Lovegood's father, right? And so then they go to see him, right? Because they know that they could trust him. Xenophilius Lovegood, that's Luna's dad, he and Luna have always supported Harry and have been, real truth seekers, truth defenders against the Coomer Goblin elite and the whack job journalists, like Rita Skeeter. And it's here that they finally learn about the titular objects, the Deathly Hallows. And this is when we finally get like the real, Genesis story, I guess you could say, of Harry Potter. I mean, obviously, in Chamber of Secrets, we learn about the founders of Hogwarts, but that's just the founders of Hogwarts. It's not like the, creation story showing the cosmology of the wizarding world. And obviously, we don't really get that in that sense, but this is when we really learn of like the powers that govern the wizarding world, right? And so the Deathly Hallows are, Xenophilius explains to them, are the invisibility cloak, the resurrection stone, and the elder wand. And if one possesses all three of the Deathly Hallows, they become the master of death, right? And of course, Harry already has one, right? He learns that, I forgot, like, was there a moment in the book when he realized, oh, shoot, this is one of them? Because in the movie, you never get that, and it's kind of confusing. But, and I also thought it was funny when he tells him the story. It's like, surely you know the story of the three brothers, right? And Ron's like, oh, yeah, like, and then, like, when with the minister came over, he's like, here's a tale of Beelze the Bard or whatever. I'm sure you know what it is. And Ron's like, oh yeah, rabbity babbity or whatever that, And then they're just both looking at him like, he's like, come on. But of course, this kind of shows how, if you view it from a Catholic lens, Ron is very much like a cradle Catholic. Harry is a revert, and then Hermione is a convert. I thought that was pretty funny because obviously there's stuff with like the converts, because I think the converts really are good at like just learning the faith, knowing the history, the teachings and everything. But there's obviously like all these like little subtle things that because they didn't like grow up with it, sometimes that they're just like, oh wait, yeah, I didn't even realize. I mean, there's obviously things there's a lot I don't know about the Catholic faith, right? But I thought that was funny. And so we learn the story of the three brothers. This is very similar to, like the legend of the three brothers in like Last Crusade, right? The Crusader brothers originally from France and like with the Holy Grail and all that kind of stuff. It draws upon like different, legends and folklore and stuff like that. Now, it's kind of subtly hinted at, well, I guess not hinted, it really is, showing how this is kind of like a myth, so to speak, or a legend within the wizarding world. Like, not everyone even really believes it, right? And even if they do, it doesn't really play a significant role in how the wizards, or like the average wizard, lives their lives, or, how they view the wizarding world, And obviously, Ron knows what he is, because, like, in a lot of ways, the Weasleys are, very, like, traditional and whatnot, in, like, the real cool way. Because obviously he knows the story, and I guess he's probably like, yeah, I would believe it. I mean, Ron's probably the type to do that. But later in the story, right, when he asks Mr. Ollivander about the Elder Wand, he's like, do you believe it? He's like, it's like an old wives' tale. And of course, Harry's like, no, you're lying. Because I saw you in the vision I had of Voldemort, that you went and asked, Voldemort asked you about it and you answered him. So answer me now, right? And so three brothers were coming home from a journey, right? Like I said, a lot of like the kind of like those Crusader stories and whatnot. And so they came to a river, and then they just waved their wands, and then a bridge was made, right? And now the consequence of this Death is embodied as like a character. Death felt that he had been cheated, right? And he lies to them, of course, in typical Death, Satan type character fashion. He tells them, oh yeah, so good job. I'm going to give you guys rewards for cheating Death. And so to the first brother, he gives him the Elder Wand. He gets a stick from the river, and it is the most powerful wand in the world, right? And of course, it is shows the kind of never-ending cycle of violence, right? Because it's just the ultimate power. Everyone wants that, right? And I actually think it's interesting how, in the end of the story, whether you're going off the book or the movie, Harry ultimately rejects it, right? In the book, at the end of the story, he uses it to repair his old wand, which was broken when they had their fight with Nagini in Godric's Hollow. And then he uses that to repair his old wand, and he hides, or he keeps it in, I think it was either Dumbledore's office or the tomb, I couldn't remember. But in the movie, he actually snaps it, which some people don't like. I don't mind it. I mean, either way, it shows that Harry he is like, this is enough. I am going to end the cycle of violence, right? And of course, we come to learn that Dumbledore had the Elder Wand. He got it from Grindelwald, and that was part of Harry's crisis of faith, because you could see how, wait, was Dumbledore evil? Like, what is this? And so Dumbledore was disarmed by Draco. And then Harry disarmed Draco. So then that's how Harry gets the Elder Wand. That's how he gets that Hallow. And this is actually interesting, because you can see how the person who did not even want it is the one who gets it. It's the person who doesn't desire the power that gets the power, right? And it's the person who is hell-bent on getting the power that doesn't get it. And even when he gets it, he thinks it's his, but it's not. I thought that was brilliant. How the devil says he's the ruler of this world, when in reality that's not true. He's not the ruler of anything. He sucks. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't, obviously you can't just be like, oh yeah, let's do bad things. That's not how it works. But you could see how God wins in the end. I thought that was just brilliant, how even when Voldemort thinks he has all the power in the world, he really doesn't, because of his arrogance and his inability to be humble and to know love, And the next Hallow, the brother wanted to bring people back from the dead as a further way of mocking death, right? And so he gives him a stone from the river, and it's the resurrection stone. It has the power to bring people back from the dead, or seemingly does. We could see how it does technically bring like the spirit of them back, but it's not really them. And of course, the fact that he didn't get really what he wanted, he committed suicide, right? And so it's the third brother who is like, you know what? I don't need power. I don't need to live forever. Because that's really what evil is in Harry Potter. It's just the fact that it's just power for power's sake, right? Like Voldemort says in the Sorcerer's Stone, he tells him there is no good or evil. There's just power, and those too weak to seek it, right? And that very much that was likely the view of the first brother, who desired power over all else. That's why he wanted the Elder Wand. And the second brother wanted to cheat death. That's also very much like how how Voldemort is, right? Because that's what he's trying to do the whole story with the Horcruxes and whatnot. And he's willing to sacrifice his soul just so he can live forever, right? And interesting that Voldemort is also descended from, I don't remember which of the three brothers, but he's descended from one of those three brothers, just as Harry is, and they're part of the Peverell line. I think that is also of note. And so the third brother, he's like, I don't need any of that. I don't need to be the most powerful. I don't need to live forever. I don't need that. I just want to be hidden, right? So Death gives him the invisibility cloak, which we learn is Harry's invisibility cloak the whole time. And so Harry already possesses it, right? And so it's been passed down through these generations. It's like his inheritance, just like the Sword of Gryffindor is Harry's inheritance. But of course, in the modern world, we have no concept of inheritance and we just dismiss it, right? And the Sword of Gryffindor is a living inheritance. It's not just some artifact from the past that belongs into the museum. It's a real living inheritance with spiritual power, which, it's the thing we need to defeat evil, right? Very much like I said about the Latin Mass and the traditional liturgy. It's not something up in the past. It's eternal, right? It's supposed to reflect the heaven. Now, I'm obviously not trying to turn this into a debate on liturgy in the Catholic Church, but I think you could see what I'm saying. And so the first two brothers, the brother who had the wand, he was just killed by the next guy. It's just might makes right. And then the second guy, like I said, committed suicide because he couldn't bear the fact that it's not like living forever isn't really what it's cracked up to be. Oh gosh, dude, I don't want to live forever. That's got to be terrible. Of course, hopefully we will in heaven, but that's obviously people want to live on earth forever. That's really the thing. And so the third brother, when it's his time to die, he's just like, you know what? Yep, it's time. And he, as the story says, greeted death as an old friend. And you could see Harry has that, because he's descended from that, he gets that same, that sort of blessing, right, of not being beholden by the vices, of the other two Hallows, right? Interestingly enough, so you have so many things going on with this book, with this book and movie, with the story in general. So eventually, when it gets down to the final battle, the apocalypse, the battle of Hogwarts, which I said is very eschatological, very much mirrors the final showdown between Christ and the Antichrist. And obviously, Harry is very much figure of Christ, Voldemort the Antichrist. And so the battle has different phases, right? And obviously, it gets to the point where Voldemort wants his forces to retreat, actually. And he tells Harry, if you do not give yourself up to me, I will kill every last man, woman, and child that tries to protect you from me. And Harry, it kills him. And he goes into the Pensieve, right, which is where we learn so much, right? We get the truth about Snape. We get the truth about Harry himself, right? And I don't want to get too much into Snape. Ultimately, people who want to dismiss him as like a simp or I don't want to use that word, I guess just like a frou-frou romantic. I don't really think that's what it was. He really did love Lily, Harry's mother, and you could see that that's why Snape, kept to the good, because I feel like Snape could have been a lot worse, and he could have actually given in to the evil, but instead he chose to follow the good. And I think Harry's mother, just like how Harry's mother guided Harry, all throughout the story, she also guided Snape, which I think is a really good thing. And remember, I said Lupin and the beautiful things he said about Harry's mother. Harry's mother is just awesome, right? And all mothers are awesome. My mother's awesome. Hey, what's up? Hey. All right, never mind. Anyways, I also think it is really telling of Snape's character that he is a good man, because he doesn't care about looking good, showing people that he did the right thing. No, he was willing to literally, everyone hated him, No one trusted him, and they all thought he was evil, yet he wasn't, and he didn't care because he knew he was doing the right thing. I think that that is so awesome, and Harry really loved that, right? And that's why he named or part of the reason why he named his son after him. So, like I said, remember I was talking about how like Hogwarts and like the teachers is very much like an intelligence agency, and so in the Pensieve, in the memory device where you can look through the memories, because Snape is killed by Voldemort, because Voldemort falsely thinks that the Elder Wand belonged to Snape, right? Because he's like, this isn't really working right. Oh wait, you killed Dumbledore, so sorry, who would have thought? Yeah, at the first moment that he needed to kill Snape, yeah, he's gone. Like, Nagini, kill, Or like how, remember earlier in the story when there's that Muggle teacher being tortured and, and then he just kills her with the killing curse, and then he's like, here, Nagini, it's your dinner, right? Just to show you how much, or how little, I guess more you could say, how little Voldemort really cares about anyone other than himself, right? And I guess he doesn't really care about himself because he's willing to sacrifice his entire soul. And because of his arrogance, he makes all these errors, right? So I guess you could say maybe he doesn't even care about himself. I mean, he is just the total inversion of everything that is true, good, and beautiful, right? And Harry is the true, good, and beautiful, right? Like I said, you're either in Dumbledore's army or Voldemort's army. And I think that's very true in real life. Like I said, the city of God and the city of man, right? What's really interesting, actually, is I think you can see how the Dumbledore's army and Voldemort's army, they're very much, it's not one type of people in either or, but the people in Dumbledore's army are on the side of good, and the people in Voldemort's army are on the side of evil, even if there's, differences amongst them, respectively, right? Because Dumbledore's army, the good people, it's like a coalition between the good-hearted traditionalists, ordinary people who just they desire the good, and they know obviously that Voldemort is evil, and also the different creatures too. You can see that's why it really becomes like an epic with the scale, how there's people fighting in the army, and then there's also creatures, magical creatures fighting in the army. The house elves rise up and they fight in the Battle of Hogwarts with the students and Harry, and also like the giants are in there. I think they're kind of split and whatnot, but there's also like spirits, right? The Dementors come, the spiders. It's really, really great stuff. And now oh gosh, man, there's just so much stuff in this, and you guys know that I don't have a script. I mean, I have notes, but I just like to riff because this is just how I'm doing things, right? And thank you for watching this. If you've been doing this so long, it's just so nice, and this has been a blast. The people on the side of evil are very much, they're like a coalition, right, of there's references, to like Masonry, right, and like the occult elite, bankers, like the goblins are like bankers, and then also like just weirdos, like Peter Pettigrew, Fenrir Greyback. And remember, like I said, nowadays for men, it's like we're in the false dialectic of you have to be either Fenrir Greyback or Peter Pettigrew, right? And like there's no in between, right? It's like you have to either be Andrew Tate or Destiny, right? And like I've said, do you really think that Voldemort cares whether you're Fenrir Greyback or Peter Pettigrew? No, because they both serve the same master. And I would argue that, yeah, Andrew Tate and all these manosphere people, they, along with Destiny and the leftist weirdos, they work for the same master. They serve the same master. And obviously we could see that the solution is Harry and Dumbledore and Voldemort. No, not Voldemort. No, Hogwarts. That's what I was trying to say. And that's what's really beautiful about Harry Potter, is because the story brings people together. It brings my family together. I mean, I'm not saying my family's divided, but there's people of all different walks of life, different religions, that different political views even, that love Harry Potter. Now, obviously, I have my way that I view it because of my own religious beliefs. And obviously, I don't want to, isolate anyone who might be from a different background, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to explain why I love the story, and I think it's great, particularly from a Catholic perspective, because I think Catholics should just give it a chance, Yeah, so, gosh, where even was I? So Voldemort kills Snape, and Snape gives Harry his last memories, which he learns about his mother, right? And he sees the secret meetings between Dumbledore and Snape, and he just learns everything, right? And he learns that he is a Horcrux. He is the final Horcrux, right? Or I guess the snake was the final Horcrux, but we'll get to that. Which I think that's also interesting, the slaying of the serpent. There's a lot of images of that in Harry Potter with the basilisk. And this, when Neville does it, yes, Neville's awesome. Maybe he's also the chosen one. There's some theories about that. But I digress. So Harry, when Voldemort cast the killing curse on him and it didn't work and it rebounded because of his mother's love and protection for him, he was obviously still alive. So the piece of him that was latched itself onto Harry, because that was the closest living thing he could find, according to Dumbledore. So Harry comes out and he's just like, I'm a Horcrux. That explains why I get all of these bad images in my head, all of these things, right? All these voices in my head. That's why I could speak to snakes. And above all, I have to give myself up, And I think it's really interesting, because it's like, not only is it like the Christ-like self-sacrifice, it's also like he has to destroy the evil once and for all in him. It's like sin, kind of like, I mean, obviously, Christ is sinless, right? To say otherwise is blasphemous, but Christ takes on the sins of the world when he died on the cross, right? But I think it's interesting how it's written this way, how you could even kind of view it as like, oh, this could technically take place, and it's like in the real world, and I like how he doesn't actually die, because obviously Christ is the only person who died and rose from the dead. I guess you could, Lazarus, but you know what I mean. And so he gives himself up to Voldemort. Like he's just like, I mean, he doesn't know what's going to happen. I mean, he's pretty sure death is death, right? And what was really fascinating is, so he got the resurrection stone literally at the end, from the snitch, the golden snitch that Dumbledore gave him, and it was the snitch that he caught at the Quidditch game, his first Quidditch game he ever played. And he kept looking at it, fooling around with it, and he noticed that it would say, I open at the close, right? I think, that could be interpreted a lot of different ways, but it also shows the full circle, I guess, like the alchemical circle, right? And is this problematic? No, I don't think it is, because I think literary alchemy is very different than like real world alchemy, right? And I've heard from different people that you could see throughout the story, like how it follows the alchemical process of starts out with red Rubius, and then white Dumbledore, Sirius black, and then finally gold, right? Because Harry has the snitch and he finally understood what it really was about. And I think that is very fascinating. And so he has the resurrection stone, and because of this, he is able to see all his family and friends that have passed away. It's almost like the saints like coming down to be with us. You know, it's very much like that, like the intercession of saints and whatnot. But so he talks to them, you know, just being like just the last moments, you know, just like, wait, what is this gonna be like? And then like this dying hurt, and Sirius goes, quicker than falling asleep, right? And Harry, just like the pain he feels, very much like the agony in the garden, I guess you could say. Like he doesn't want this. He doesn't understand why it had to come to this, why all these people had to die for him. He's like, I never wanted any of you guys to die for me. And everyone's like, well, I mean, it's just what we had to do, you know? And you could see how there's like a heaven in Harry Potter. Like they're dead, but they're still alive, right? Kind of like how in Christian belief, we believe that, you know, like the death isn't the end, right? There is life after death, life in Christ, right? In heaven. And so he gives himself up, and Voldemort, so goofy, but I love it anyways. And now he's in the afterlife, and this is quite possibly the best scene or best chapter of the entire Harry Potter anything ever. So he's in the afterlife, and he's in King's Cross Station, like a cleaner, more like ethereal, liminal version of it. But he's in King's Cross, and I think that this is, what this really means is that the journey ends where it starts, right? Because King's Cross, right, that was the catapult to get him into the, you know, Hogwarts and all that stuff. It's very much like Mos Eisley Spaceport, you know, in Star Wars. And of course, he meets Dumbledore in the afterlife. And oh gosh, Dumbledore, he just really gives off the kind of like Gandalf the White vibes, you know, like he's like completely like stainless, purified, and it's very much like Harry is seated at the right hand of the Father, you know, because like I've talked about, Harry is very much like God the Son, and Dumbledore's like God the Father. Sadly, no Fawkes in this. That's one of the complaints I have about this story. I wish they could have done something with that, or maybe was Fawkes with Dumbledore in the book? I don't think he was, but let me know if he wasn't, or sorry, if he was. Now, Dumbledore pretty much just explains to Harry everything that I've explained here now, and he explains how he's not dead because Voldemort, when he did the ritual to have a body again with flesh, blood, and bone, remember that he used Harry's blood, and Harry's blood is protected by Lily, right? So obviously that, like, Harry couldn't die because of the protection, and Voldemort doing it, that was because he also had the blood in him, which I thought was interesting. Now he so he's with Dumbledore, and he sees the piece of Voldemort's soul that was killed. Everyone jokes that it looks like a, you know, like the wings with the blue cheese and the celery. People have made memes of that. And the most fascinating line, he asked him, because so he realized, so there's the snake, he still has to defeat the snake, and he has a choice to go back if he does, like if he can, it's up to him, which I also thought was really interesting. And I just loved how Dumbledore refers to him as, you know, wonderful, Harry, you wonderful boy, you brave man, because that's what Harry is. And he's such a good character, and such a good role model, you know, for young men. Shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so when Dumbledore is leaving, you know, typical Dumbledore fashion, I'll be going now, and just like leaves. And then Harry's like, wait, but Professor, is this all real, or is this just happening inside my head? And he goes, of course it's happening inside your head, Harry, but how does that mean that it's not real? And I think Dumbledore he is speaking to Harry, but I think he's really speaking to us, right? Because I feel like when it comes to fantasy, right, like when people like Tolkien say that Middle Earth is real, and they're like, no, it's not. He's like, no, it is. When you really think about it, because it's like, oh, well, it's just happening inside your head, and he's like, how does that mean that it's not real? Because there's obviously different kinds of realities, right? Ontologically speaking, spiritually speaking, and I just love that. And then he also simultaneously just destroys the whole, Descartes cogito, the I think therefore I am, right? Oh my gosh, it's just so brilliant. Dumbledore is the best. And so he comes back, and interesting enough, the Malfoys have a redemption, because all that Narcissa Malfoy cared about was her son. And so then they're like, is he dead? Let's go see. Is Draco alive? And then Harry's like, yep. And then I thought that was really good. And I mean, even if the Malfoys never really had a redemption with Harry himself, they certainly rejected Voldemort, I guess you could say. They when Harry in revenant style, when he literally when he comes back from the dead in front of everybody, they just get out of there, right? They're like, yeah, we don't want this anymore. And a lot of the Death Eaters did, actually, which I thought was pretty cool. So, oh my gosh, it is just so sad. Like, Hagrid, the character who delivered baby Harry, to safety, all those years ago, he really, in a lot of ways, is Hogwarts. Like Harry says, it's not Hogwarts without you, Hagrid, which is very true. And Hagrid, who obviously loves Harry so much, he's always cared for him, and he delivered him when he was a baby. Now he's carrying Harry's dead body in his arms, and he's chained, and it's so sad, and Hagrid's bawling. I mean, that obviously evokes images of the Pietà, right, of Mary holding Jesus, right? That's just what I try to tell people. Like, can you really read this or watch this with a straight face and tell me, yeah, that's demonic? Like, really? Anyways, but so Harry comes back, and it's, like Christ, he rose from the dead. He is the phoenix that has risen from the ashes, right? Because this whole story is brilliant with the foreshadowing, the phoenix, the light in the dark, all these kind of things foreshadow Harry. He is the phoenix. He, similar to how, I remember Jay Dyer talked about how, Israel, the nation of Israel is really, embodied in the person of Christ, right? Like, Christ is Israel, right? And I think you can see how Harry embodies Fawkes the Phoenix, right? The Holy Spirit, and then also he personifies the order of the Phoenix, I just think that it's all so well done. And then they have their final showdown. In the book, it's a very public thing, and he offers him a chance at redemption, interestingly enough. And of course, Voldemort's like, and then but in the movie, it's very much more of like a private altercation. I don't really hate that decision very much. I actually, whatever. I mean, perhaps they couldn't think of a way to do it with everyone watching them, so whatever. Regardless, and I just love how Harry is he's fearless now. Like, he just calls Voldemort Tom, like, you never learn, Tom. Like, you can't kill anyone here anymore because I gave my life to stop this. Like, you're done, this whole Coomer Goblin elite living forever, technocracy, surveillance state, AI, whatever, that's all done now, right? Because it's destroyed through the power of love, right? Like, I think Voldemort literally is the only person that Harry actually kills. I think is interesting. And of course, it's indirect because the way the spells connect. Harry's Expelliarmus, I think, just overpowers Voldemort's Avada Kedavra, which just, gets into him, right? And of course, Harry becomes the master of death because he possesses all three of the Hallows. But interestingly enough, obviously he only keeps the one that's actually good, I guess you could say. I mean, are the other two inherently evil? I don't really know. I don't really think I have an answer to that. Some people say they're poorly written or realized. I don't really think that's what it is. But in general, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say like the cosmology and whatnot of Harry Potter can at times be inconsistent and confusing, especially like the scale of everything. It can be a little confusing sometimes and inconsistent. So he becomes the master of death, and he doesn't even need any of it anymore, right? Because he has made the ultimate sacrifice. He has conquered death just like Christ conquers death, right? I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I've been going for an hour. I think Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows is it's just the right epic, apocalyptic, and it's just like the good Exile story. Because like I've said, Harry Potter is very much like it's a mix of the Moses story, the story of Christ, mixed with the classical Western tradition, so Greco-Roman mythology and like Germanic folklore, paganism, all that kind of stuff, and it's all mixed with Christianity, right? Because it's a celebration of the Western tradition. I really think that that's what Harry Potter is. It's a celebration of the Western tradition, and it's also a critique of the British Empire, I think you could argue. This has been just a blast, guys. I appreciate you guys watching this. Any thoughts? Agree, disagree? I want to know. Just leave your comments below. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, and well, I would say I'll see you in the next one, but we're done. This is Harry Potter. If you're not convinced yet, just go check it out, please. I really think that Harry Potter is something special, and that the Catholics, we don't need to be scared of it. Yeah, thank you guys.